sweet friends, and welcome back to the Quilter's Candy Shop, where you will find sweet treats for the discerning quilter. Today we are continuing with our Winter's Garden block of the month. This is month number 4, and we are on block number 2. Just as a reminder, all of the outside piecing is exactly the same as last month and will be the same for all 9 blocks that make up the center of this quilt. Before we review the construction of the outside piecing, we have one pattern correction to note. Turn to page 7 and look at the 5th fabric listed in the cutting instructions. The fabric is listed as Baby Pink Floret 9795-0155. The SKU number should be 9793-0155. If you are using your own fabric, this may not be a problem for you. But if you're using one of our kits, or you have taken the time to create a fabric placement card, you will want to change the number in the pattern so you can locate the correct fabric for piecing this block. To make these blocks, start with the corner half square triangle 4-patch, then make the centered double flying geese unit, which starts with this 2 by 4 inch finished flying geese. Then add the setting triangles on the side. Next, add the larger triangle to the top. And lastly, add the outer triangles to the sides to complete the double flying geese unit. This unit should measure 4.5 by 8.5 unfinished. Connect the 4 corner patches and the double flying geese units and proceed to making the center of your block. There are 2 options for the center of block number 2. If you're making the piece blocks, the construction is very simple. You'll be making a variety of half square triangles that when put together look like this. If you're using our kit, this is the correct fabric placement. However, you're not locked into the location of a particular print, with some exceptions. You're welcome to move fabric around and make this quilt your own. Just keep an eye on your total yards available so you don't run out. But if you do, I'm sure we can help you out. Just drop us a line at thequilterscandyshop@gmail.com and we will put together an oops pack just for you. One more thing to note. Some of the half square triangles in this patch have directional fabric. Here's a quick look at how you can keep your motifs pointed in the right direction. Keep this tip in your memory box for future piecing projects. When marking your diagonal lines on your half square triangles, place your fabric with the proper registration. That means keep your fabric with the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom. Right sides together. Then when you go to mark your diagonal line across your half square triangle, mark one square from the upper left to the bottom right, and the other square from the upper right to the bottom left. This will give you the proper registration of your directional prints so they stay upright in all 4 corners of your block. The second option is the applique center. This week we're going to cover the simplest applique technique that uses the fewest steps. It is the glue stick technique for raw edge applique. There's all kinds of glue sticks that you can purchase that will work with this technique. All of them are water soluble, allow for repositioning without leaving a residue, do not stain, and will dry clear. One of the most popular is the BOM temporary glue pen with a narrow tip and a pink glue. A second favorite is the 505 temporary adhesive glue stick with great coverage and blue glue. But if you are on a budget, you can also use Elmer's washable school glue, which goes on purple. Or you can get a generic one like this one that I found at Dollar General. Just make sure it says washable and non-toxic. You can generally find them in a school supply section of your local grocery store, pharmacy, convenience store, or craft store. The glue stick technique is by far the simplest technique and has the fewest steps. For this technique, we're going to make a copy of our pattern on cardstock so we have a good template for drawing our shapes onto our fabric. I use a little spray starch on the face of my fabric squares to give them just a little body and makes it easier to draw the shapes onto the fabric. Next, we're going to trace the templates on the wrong side of the fabric. Now, all of our pieces are symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if you trace them right side up or upside down. But for best practice, you should get in the habit of tracing your pieces upside down on the wrong side of the fabric. That way, the shapes will be in the proper direction when you apply them to your fabric square. Once they're traced, you'll go ahead and cut out your shapes right on the line. Because you're going to cut them out right on the line, it doesn't really matter what you use to draw your shapes. You can use a pencil, a pen, but a friction marker is best, so in case it should bleed through or in case you get a little crooked, your hot iron will remove that line. Next, you'll put a little glue around the edge and then place your piece on your background. You can use the Applique mapping technique that we talked about last month, which is helpful to getting your shapes in just the right place. Lastly, you'll stitch your pieces into place. With this technique, there are no pins needed. However, you cannot glue a bunch of pieces and then sew. You will need to glue one, stitch one, glue one, stitch one, glue one, stitch one, etc. To finish the applique, you can use a variety of stitching techniques. The more popular styles are the straight line stitching, where you sew a scant 1/8 inch in on the edge of your applique, and I would recommend going around that twice so it's good and secure. Or you can use a simple zigzag like this one, which has a light blendable finish, or you can use a tighter zigzag like this one, which will help to create a solid outline. And lastly, and very common with this technique, is the blanket stitch edging. This is done by hand with embroidery floss. The raw edge applique is going to show a little rough edge fraying over time, which is why this technique is used primarily for primitive style projects. Whichever style you choose, take your time, and with a little practice, they will look great. Once your applique center is finished, add the side double flying geese, and then add the top and bottom rows to complete the block. The last step is to add the floating sashing to the sides and then to the top and bottom, and then you are done with block number 2. You need to make 2 number 2 blocks for this quilt top. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed making block number 2 of our Winter Gardens Block of the Month. Join us again for next month's block number 3. If you would like to join our Winter's Garden Block of the Month, it's not too late. You can find the patterns and kits in our online shop at www.thequilterscandyshop.com. That's SHOPPE shop.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you know the next time we post more fun videos like this. And stay tuned for more quilts and crafts, tips and tricks, and a lot of sweet treats. Now go sew something sweet. Bye!